precinct. Oh, just don't let me say it fast. Baltimore County Police Accountability Board, and to remind all that this meeting is being recorded. We're going to begin, as usual, with a roll call for all district members, and we'll start with District 1.
Fitzpatrick, District 1.
And District 2, Lindy Shields, myself, I'm here. District 3.
Ralph Dennis.
District, thank you, sir. District 4.
Thank you, Bruce. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. District 5.
Renee Stride.
And we'll speak more about Ms. Stride momentarily. Welcome. And District 7. I'm sorry, District 7.
Dawn DeShaun-Feurer.
District 8. Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Our at-large members.
Kara White.
Here. Hi, Kara. And our second at-large member, Ms. Raleigh. And we will move forward as we do have room. And if you haven't already reviewed the minutes of our March 20th meeting.
I have an extra copy if anybody needs one. They haven't got a chance to.
Might be easier.
Sure.
Yeah.
Take the first two and pass the rest around.
Copies are going around for those who need them to review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to.
Motion to accept minutes. A motion to accept minutes.
We have a motion to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? You guys have it. The minutes will be accepted and adopted as written. We have a few administrative updates to go forward today, and we'll let Henry begin and start with us for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you everybody for being here today. Just a couple odds and ends to take care of here. First off, I'd like to welcome Renee Stride, the District 5 representative newly appointed by the County Executive and confirmed by the Baltimore County Council. Anything to share?
Just glad to be here.
We thank her for her application and look forward to working with you on the board. In terms of the Administrative Charging Committee, first things first, as discussed at the last meeting and on the agenda for today's meeting, the PAB nominating committee made up of Madam Chair Linda Shields, Ms. Fitzpatrick, and Ms. Rollingford, and myself in a non-voting capacity, interviewed numerous candidates for both the Administrative Charging Committee and the trial boards. The recommended appointees for the ACC are Ms. Tiffany Justice and Mr. Christopher Suey. Ms. Justice actually is joining us on WebEx in case there are any questions by members of the PAB. I know she does have to step off a little bit early today, but wanted to make sure that she was available here today. Additionally, Christopher Suey, who's not able to attend, was also recommended after a number of interviews and a rigorous discussion process by the members of the committee. In terms of the trial boards, it's a little bit of a different process because the trial boards, when they are convened on an as-needed basis, there's one member who is appointed. However, following the lead of other jurisdictions and also is based on best practices, we have decided to have multiple people who are on a roster, so to speak, who receive training, and then when there is a trial board convened, can be officially appointed by the members of the PAB. And today, again, there would also be a vote on whether or not to appoint those members to the roster, so to speak. So again, the goal there is to have people who are available to be called upon not getting too far afield, but the statute does allow for a certain number of strikes by the officer accused of misconduct. And so to avoid a situation where you have just one or two trial board members who are fully trained, we wanted to have a roster. And we'll continue doing interviews as well. This is not the final list. Again, there's no cap set on the number of people who can receive training to be on the trial boards. Additionally, the county executive and staff have interviewed numerous members for the 2 spots on the ACC the county executive appoints, and have, again, after a long process there, the county executive has appointed Joan Harris and L'Oreal Moore to serve on the administrative charging committee as well. So those are the 2 folks who will be on from the county executive's choices. Additionally, Mrs. DeShaun-Feurer will be on as the chair's designee. And then there are the 2 spots that will be voted on today as members of the public. For updates on public comment, the website now has a online registration for speakers, if you're or public comment rather, so it asks for your name, contact, and any kind of topic that you would just speak on. And the benefit of that is that it gives the members of the board and myself the opportunity to, if there is a very specific question that a member of the public has, we can prepare and make sure that we have the information ready to go for that member or that member's organization at the time of the meeting. So a little bit less of a lag in terms of the meeting and then a follow-up. And it also, again, if there are a large number of speakers, it allows for a streamlining where we know who's pre-registered. Additionally, we have this timer here for the purposes of public comment. And again, that's really for the benefit of the members of the public so they know, per our rules of procedure, there is a 2-minute period to discuss or to make comment. That allows the member of the public to know how much time they have and not be sort of guesstimating as to whether or not they've exceeded that time or if they are way below and they want to elaborate. A few more little bits and pieces here. I did want to, again, this information was shared to all members of the board, but we do have, Baltimore County has a new nominee for police commissioner appointed by the county executive, Robert McCullough. Again, all members here have received that announcement. It was made public, so again, we'll be reaching out to him and his staff to see when a good time following council confirmation for him to speak if confirmed. Just a couple more housekeeping bits here. Starting in May, my office will be across the street in the Jefferson building. So I'll be looking into the space over there, which has the Department of Planning uses for meetings and seeing, again, that's an excellent space really designed for meetings with members of the public and board members. It's a little bit more official in some respects, and a little more formal than this room. And it's been more recently designed to handle WebEx. And I think handles this quality of audio a little bit better. So we'll be thinking about that. Again, that's not something that we're necessarily moving towards, but I'm gonna look into whether or not that's an option so we can at least have that for availability. I did send out per the statute, the confidentiality agreements to members of the board. I'm still waiting on a few folks to return those. If you could do so as soon as possible. Again, we haven't had a closed session, but looking forward to the summer. Be situations where we do need to go into closed session and we do review confidential information. In that case, those would obviously need to be signed ahead of time. And finally, since it is the April meeting, we have received through the beginning of April 5 complaints so far through our email server and through our complaint form. Those have been forwarded to the appropriate law enforcement agencies to handle. Again, we're not at the stage right now where the administrative charging committee is reviewing complaints, so those have not obviously gone to the ACC yet. And that is all I've got on my agenda for today. The administrative updates.
Thank you so much. Before we go to our 4th item on our agenda, the presentation that we will be giving today, I did want to mention that our committee, that we are still looking into having other guests and speakers come that are not law enforcement related per se, community groups or individuals or groups that have been given to us and recommended to us, that we are getting these groups hopefully on the calendar as they are available to us to come and speak, but that we are attempting to make contact and have presentations by other outside groups as well. That said, we want to present to you today our speaker our Towson University Police Chief Charles Herring, who has agreed to come to us today with a presentation, and we appreciate him coming and thank you for the information you will impart to us as to how Towson operates in its policing and how that intermingles with the policing of the community in Towson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, board members, my name is, I go by Joe Herring. Happy to be here. I'm going to talk generally about the department and what we do. I'm more than happy to come back at another date, as I let Henry know, who I know from a previous life. If there's something more specific you want or additional detail that I can't give you today, if you ask the questions. So we're a fully certified law enforcement agency in the state of Maryland. We go through the same training as the Baltimore County Police Department, maintain the same certification levels. We're a smaller agency, obviously, and we're more community focused with the Towson University's campus and the areas surrounding the campus. We operate under an MOU with the Baltimore County Police Department, and we defer investigation for any sudden death, first or second degree rape or sex offense, or any physical child abuse case to the Baltimore County Police for investigation. And we take on a supporting role in those investigations with them. The department's comprised of 48 sworn members and 16 non-sworn members. Of those 16 non-sworn members, 12 of them are dispatchers. We operate our own dispatch center. It's not a secondary PSOT, but we do have real-time communication with Baltimore County's 911 center, and we'll get calls from them that route into the 911 center for Towson University. They'll send them down to us. If they're emergency nature, we will duly dispatch to the emergency with both departments. Of the 48 sworn members, we are broken up into 3 general areas. We have a patrol division, which handles the 3 patrol shifts, round-the-clock coverage, and criminal investigations. We have a support operations bureau, which consists of the dispatchers, our training coordinator, property and evidence, logistics, and also the commanding officer of the support operations bureau is my internal affairs investigator. So he handles any complaints that we get, which are low in number, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And he does the investigations, of course, under the new process. Once we're satisfied with the investigation, regardless of how it routes to us, we then route it out to the statewide ACC for their review and findings. And then so far, we've had 3 go through that process. We have not had any officers request trial board, so we haven't had to come before this board and make a request for to be on the trial board. And then we have, I have a quality control division, which consists, that reports, those 2 components I just talked about, the support operations and patrol bureau, report up to a deputy chief who handles the day-to-day operations. And then I have a quality control unit that reports directly to me, and that unit consists of our record section. We have the Clery requirements under the Clery statutes for notifications and crime reporting on campus and surrounding areas. We also have a body-worn camera program. All our officers are equipped with body-worn cameras, and that unit maintains the review and the quality control to make sure we're doing what we say we do. We're turning them on when we should be and turning them off when we should not have them on. And then they also handle our accreditation efforts. We are accredited through Commission for Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, the same as Baltimore County. And then we also hold a dual accreditation through the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators. And we've been accredited with Callegary, the first one I mentioned, since 2013. We're currently in year 2 of a 4-year process where we reaccreditate every 4 years. They break it out into an ongoing cycle each year, and the 4th year they actually have an on-site visit. And then we've been duly accredited since 2015 And that group also runs a 4-year cycle, but they're a year behind CALEA, so we're not trying to deal with two of them in the same calendar year. Our total budget is just a hair over 9.5 million, larger than some people think, not large enough from my perspective. Complaints, we generally have very few complaints. I've been at Towson for 23 years. When I first got there, the complaint numbers were larger. I went there under former chief, Bernie Gerst, who was a colonel in Baltimore County before he retired. And we set about a planned process to professionalize the department. And as we hit those benchmarks, we saw complaints drop. And in the last 10 years, we've had a pretty consistent low number of complaints. I think all but 1 year they were single digits. I think we're a little outside of the national norm in that the majority of the complaints that we do get, we wind up sustaining for one reason or another at some level. That doesn't mean that everything that's alleged gets sustained, but we do hold our officers accountable, and we have been very transparent with our information since well before the current legislation. We, for years, have put our findings up without specific names of officers involved up on our website and so forth. In the 3 most recent years, we currently are at the number 4 for this year. We have received 4 complaints so far. They're all still currently under investigation. Last year, we had 5. 4 of the 5 were sustained. 4 of those 5 went through the current process with the ACC. One of them is still pending at the ACC for their results back to us. And the first one that we had occurred prior to the effective date of legislation, so that proceeded under the previous system. And the year before that, we had 5 complaints, and 4 of those 5 were sustained as well. Our current areas of concern are where we're focusing our growth for this upcoming fiscal year are some technology upgrades to bring ourselves more current with the use of enhanced systems to manage our closed circuit television system on campus, our cameras both exterior and interior. Once we get that done, we'll be able to turn viewing capabilities up to Baltimore County on an as-needed basis. If events occur, we get requests for investigations. Obviously, for privacy concerns, interior cameras probably won't be the case for those because we have to comply with some other requirements as far as our students' images and things like that. And then also the area of responding to people having a mental health crisis. We've been given the funding, and we're in the process of completing the training for our sworn officers to bring them up to the level of the Baltimore County Crisis Response Team. And then we are going to contract, hopefully, with the same provider that Baltimore County uses for the mental health professional to pair up with them, so that not during all hours, but during most hours, we'll have a team available for the campus community, and we can also give back to the county and support them by making that team available in the nearby off-campus areas, because for many years they've been supporting us by responding their unit to our campus when we needed it. So what else can I tell you?
Anybody have any questions?
Just a clarifying question. If I understood you correctly, there's 4 from this year current complaints. Is that correct?
There are 4 currently.
And that's for the calendar year?
That is for the calendar year.
But in previous years, you were mentioning there were 5 total for the whole calendar year?
Yes.
Okay. So that seems to be a large uptick of complaints for this calendar year so far?
No, it's 1 less actually so far.
No, I mean, we're only in April. I just want to make sure I was understanding
Yeah,
the numbers.
we look at things over, I have to look at things over the school by the full-blown semesters, fall and winter,
Okay.
or fall and spring semester. Typically, I will see more complaints in the spring semester than I do in the fall semester. There's a couple of reasons why that could be true. We don't have anything definitive to tell us that. So we're actually pretty much on pace
Okay.
where we were. We expected to see a slight uptick because because of the training that we've had and the guidance that we've had from the training commission. If it even let's just say that there could be circumstances where a complaint is made that we will put a formal number on it, run a formal investigation to it. Where in the past we may not have done that, we'd have handled it through mediation.
What is your typical complaint?
Well, for the most part, knock on wood, I'm happy to say they're the typical RNA, rude and arrogant type complaints where, the officer didn't act professional enough. Not professional, that's probably the wrong term. Wasn't professional, maybe took some liberties what they shouldn't have, and that happens for a number of reasons. The body-worn cameras have helped us a lot in that regard because those seem to vanish overnight, but they started to creep back in a little bit. So that's typically it. We do occasionally get a complaint that rises to the level of some type of criminal misconduct. We typically, as an agency, because I don't really have any place to transfer or put someone where they're not going to have contact, so that usually in my agency results in a suspension of pay and stay at home, while we figure out what happened here and investigate. So we remove that person when those kind of allegations are involved from the community.
Are there times when complaints, once investigated, move from your jurisdiction to other jurisdictions to handle? Are the levels of investigation to handle, or is everything contained within your confines of it?
Well, if it rises to the level, are you talking about if it rises to the level of a criminal investigation? So what we'll do is, if we get a complaint that has a criminal allegation component to it, we will then go to the state's attorney's office and get their review and sign off as to whether or not they would may or may not pursue the matter criminally. If they do, we pause the administrative side, and then we either, in most cases, it'll be outside of our jurisdiction. We'll involve ourselves with that agency, and they'll run a criminal investigation. The most recent one was back in 3 years ago. It involved conduct of an officer while off duty up in Hartford County, and we worked with the Hartford County Sheriff's Department and State's Attorney's Office. They ran the criminal investigation, and once they concluded that, then we moved forward with the administrative side.
Thank you.
You mentioned it's at the Citizens Police Academy that you're sending officers into the entertainment district?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you sending officers to the entertainment district on the weekends now? Is that my understanding? To support that?
We'll go into the entertainment district if Baltimore County requests us to.
Okay.
We work closely with the county. I should have went into this a little bit. We come in several times a week in contact with the precinct commander at Towson. We meet with them regularly. We fund a couple grants that allow them to pay extra duty hours for officers to increase patrols in the neighborhoods around campus and up in that general area up there. On occasion, they have requested us to come up into the entertainment district. We have a little bit of added leverage with our students that the county officers don't have, in that we can do referrals up through the administrative process that the university has for student conduct. And they have a pretty vigorous code of conduct for their behavior up there. So, but we don't routinely patrol it.
How, in terms of interoperability, how with the county police department, I mean, you guys on the radio frequencies, or what you just?
Sure, we have a statewide radio system. We can go anywhere in the state and talk back to our folks and any other agency in the state. We have that all mapped out. We have quick connect operability with Baltimore County right on our portables. We just have to change the channel. We can go live and talk to them. We do that often. And if we needed to, if we had some type of ongoing event on campus or nearby campus, we could patch the two frequencies together and have simultaneous communications. It's unusual that we do that, but we have done it in the past.
Any members online have any questions? I see that Ms. Rollingwood joined us, thank you. Okay, if there are no other questions, we want to thank you again for coming in. Thank you for your
Awesome.
very thorough presentation. And
Thank
we appreciate you taking the time to share with us the systems in Baldwin County Housing.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for your work. And again, if there's anything I can do in the future, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you so much.
Sorry if I leave.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a card, Jim?
Thank
Do
you.
you have a card?
I do. I have a couple of them.
Someone
I'll
else?
leave them here for anyone who would like them.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to figure out where I was getting all the copy for GBMC, so.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I did want to note too that we have a new Assistant County Attorney, Bambi Glenn, who will be helping us with the board and with other police accountability related boards and committees. As Ms. Greg Gaskins retired at the end of March, so thank you so much for joining us today and helping out.
Welcome, nice to meet all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're gonna proceed with our old business item that we have here, and Tammy will bring us up to speed on the latest District 6 vacancy update.
Sure. So as everyone here knows, we've had the vacancy in District 6 now for a couple of months. The interviews are ongoing and should be wrapping up fairly soon. And the hope is that the county executive will appoint a member relatively shortly. Again, that is a vacancy that expires at the end of June. So that's also something that is being kept in mind here for the purpose of interviews. I mean, you know, understand the practical elements here of this person will be relatively short term, although they certainly could reapply to fill out the full 3-year term that begins in July. So that's where we are there. And hopefully, again, as soon as possible, we'll have a fully rostered board.
Thanks, Henry. Henry did mention earlier that we had conducted thorough interviews with those that we were inclined to consider for the vacancy, or rather the positions of our ACC, PAB ACC members. And at this time, we would like for you, if you have any discussion on those, we did send the redacted resumes on to everyone to review, so that you would have time to look at that information prior to the meeting. So we would entertain any discussion on those that we are putting forward. Ms. Harrison is more, and we know that our. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Tiffany. So at this time, any discussion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Tiffany Justice and Christopher, is it Tsui?
Sui.
Say it again?
Silent T.
Salmazi, Tsui, to serve as the Baltimore County Administrative Charging Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved in second that we accept these two, Mr. Sui and Ms. Justice, as our ACC members. Any questions? If not, we will, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? The ayes have it, so it's so moved that Ms. Justice and Mr. Sui will be appointed as the PAB ACC members. Thank you very much. The second item is a discussion and motion to appoint our trial board members. And again, we had rigorous interviews with these members, persons who had applied. And we were very pleased to see the breadth of not just interest, but also background and experience that those who we are nominating to appoint had. Their willingness and understanding of the board's responsibilities and understanding of the role that they would play, was very evident and very positive. And we took our time and we gathered as much information as we could. And we, as Henry did mention the names for those persons. Also, I want to emphasize the importance of knowing that they will be representing this pool, and that it's an ongoing process to place persons in the pool. So we are still taking nominations, we're still taking persons of interest to come in with applications to interview them as well. But we were very pleased that we wanted to provide for you a group, and not just one or two, but at least several persons who we believe that were very qualified and that would be able to be called upon at any time to perform this very important role. We also found it very heartwarming and encouraging that it was understood the training that had to be undergone by these members, and that they were all willing to take time off to do whatever it was in order to undergo that training. So with that said, you also received that information prior to the meeting so that you would have time to review it and have questions available or ready if you have any at this time. So any discussion on those or any of those who were in that list?
I'm curious that
Yes.
you elaborate a little bit on what kind of preparation they had. I mean, what you said, training and exposure they've had to get to this point. What did that look like?
So they're going to have
They're going to have.
the training that's planned, that they're going to
Yeah,
have to take.
okay, that's
Yes.
what I mean.
No training prior to for preparation.
Got it.
No,
That's
the experience
better.
for-
Okay.
I mean, they have experience.
Yeah, the experience, but the
Right.
training is
Yeah,
specifically
I
to
thought
answer
you were
your
alluding to
questions.
training they'd already had.
No,
Okay.
training that they will be having.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, if there are no questions, I'll make a motion that we, the PAB appoints Wesley, is that Bowley? How you pronounce that? Bowl, Tony Keish, Sheila Lewis, Gary Tosadori, okay, to the Baltimore County Trial Board pool.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion. It's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? And we ask that the board consider the nominations of those who will be placed in the pool for our trial board members. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries. And we thank you again for your time and looking and reviewing over those applications. We're gonna remind folks that, and give us a heads up if you're going to be speaking anywhere, any public appearances or any community events where you will be present, you believe you maybe ask questions, or if you've been invited to come to a community event, to answer questions or to speak on your role as a member of the PAB. We just like to know in advance, and if there's anything that we could possibly help you with in your preparation for those events, please just let us know, okay? Are there any scheduled at this time? Anyone scheduled to appear or been invited to anything in the community? Oh, keep us posted. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 15th. Here again, in this room, unless we're otherwise notified that our location is going to change, but again at 12 p.m. At this time, we will open up for public comment. Is there any at this time? Yes, ma'am. Please stand, identify yourself if you would.
Yes, thank you. Should I step up to the
Sure.
microphone?
The mic's here.
There's a microphone?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time
Absolutely.
and the opportunity, Madam Chair, members of the PAB. I'd like to suggest that you reconsider the amount of time you're allocating to speakers. The County Council allows 3 minutes, and given the importance of the material that you are discussing and its importance to the larger community, I would like to suggest that at minimum 3 minutes would be preferred, to give people an opportunity to really express themselves in a more complete way. Your work is so important, and although we all appreciate our police department and all the hard work and the great employees and officers that work for the police department. We also know that Baltimore County still ranks number one in citizen deaths by police in the state. And this is a record that we've had for several years. We also know that as a result of police misconduct, sometimes up to including wrongful death, the settlements that Baltimore County pays is in the millions. I was looking at the check register just for 2022, this is calendar year, and just looking at the major settlements for the police department only, it's in the neighborhood of $8 million just for 1 year. So and as the nominee for police chief mentioned in his remarks to the council last Monday, he recognizes that these things are liabilities for the department and the county. So I know he's prepared to address them. So given that context, I hope you would consider my suggestion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I didn't say, but my name is Peta Rickus, and I live in District 6.
Thank you again. Other public comments at this time? Anyone via WebEx? If there are none, then we would at this time entertain a motion to adjourn. Yes,
We're going to open the agenda for new business again.
did I skip that?
No, we did. We covered. I have new business.
We have new business.
Very new.
We have an addendum new business.
I'd like to make a motion that we expand public, the PAB expand public comment to 3-minute periods in for speakers. If we're able to.
Well, I would like to, it's your motion. Is there a second?
I'd like to have some discussion on that motion before we.
Yes, that would be my next question.
Jerry did second it.
Nigeria second.
Discussion.
I guess how did we come to the decision that would be 2 minutes? Is that an administrative decision or is it a board decision?
That have been a board discussion, but we can certainly, I mean, it's one that's up to the board to decide. And our discussion was based on the fact that that's what other jurisdictions have used, but again, that's up to the board to decide if they want to expand that amount of time, shrink that amount of time. It's in the board's hands.
Comparably, is that, what's the rule of thumb, 2 minutes?
For other counties, but again,
So the speaker mentioned that at the 3 minutes is the norm at the council. It's the norm at the school board as well. So I just that's why I was.
Are there any other questions, any other discussion?
I'll second the motion.
What did he seconded?
Yeah, I'll second
Nigeria.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so,
Carry your motion.
yes.
I do have one question, clarification. This isn't addressed in our rules of procedure, so should that be included in there? And if so, I think we have a separate protocol for amendments to our rules of procedure. Because they currently talk about public comment, but not to the point of a limit. It actually says a member of the public may be allowed to participate in the meeting in instances when the board expressly invites public testimony, which is every meeting, questions, comments, or other forms of participation.
so I can touch on the discussion of amendments. So the Typical approach is, again, prior to a public hearing on the adoption of an amendment, 30 days prior, there would be we'd be on the website that we're amending our bylaws, proposed amendment to the rules of procedure. Here's the nature of it. It gives our public review. It would technically also, because it deals with the Open Meetings Act, does overlap with the council. They would need to just be informed about it. Now, the adoption of an amendment may be recommended at the same meeting where it is initially proposed if it is unanimous.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay.
So regardless, we're doing an amendment because we don't have a time limit.
That's right. But if it's unanimous vote on the amendment, it can be adopted today. Otherwise, it would be 30 days out. The next meeting is, just doing math here, 28 days from now. So it would theoretically be on the June agenda.
If we don't adopt it.
So if it's unanimous, Pete's motion can be just altered to be, he's proposing an amendment to our rules
I do think
to include the 3 minutes.
I do think that Mr. Fitzpatrick should reword the amendment just so we're precise as to the record.
So to amend the motion or amend the motion. Amend the motion to amend the procedures to limit public comment to 3 minutes. One love. That's it.
Okay.
Per speaker. Sorry. Limit public comment per speaker. So,
Is there a second to the amendment?
I'm trying to figure out we've tiered this thing, haven't we? We started with an amendment, now we got another amendment to the amendment?
No, I just had to reword it.
A modification of the amendment.
A modification of the amendment, okay, but it's the same motion.
Pete made a motion, but now we're just including it
So-
in our rules of procedure.
I guess
So
technically
the
I would
the
withdraw
motion
my
for the
previous
amendment.
motion and make this motion,
Okay,
which is not.
things just got second.
Did Nigeria second it?
Okay.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition or opposed?
Look like it's unanimous.
Any abstentions?
You got your heart's desire.
Then I'd like to abstain. For the record.
I don't know if that technically qualifies as unanimous then, if it's an abstention. It would not be a unanimous vote.
So then we have to wait until June.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again?
There's an abstention, it's technically not unanimous. So then that would get pushed to the June meeting for the purposes of a vote on adoption, which at that point only requires a majority vote if there's a quorum present.
So that being said, the minutes will reflect that the motion did not carry and as an amendment did not carry and will be carried over to for vote on our June meeting.
Just to elaborate there, that language will be posted to the website in its precise language, so that way there can be public input as to the change to the rules of procedure.
Okay, thanks, Henry.
I have a quick question. I am no expert on Robert's rules, so I'm just going to say that. Can I get some clarification on abstaining and voting? Is a person required to state why they abstain or not, and what that actually means?
Under our rules of procedure.
Yes.
So not under the current rules of procedure. There's no required explanation for an abstention or a vote on any position, whether it's affirmative, negative, or abstaining.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask to clarify how the public would express an opinion once this motion is on the website?
Sure. So we do have a public comment that's on the website,
Posted.
that's posted. Additionally, the meeting agenda can be designed in such a way as to allow for comment prior to the vote on adoption.
And when do you anticipate that it will be posted on the website?
That will get posted this week.
So at this time, if there are no other items, no other business, we will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Be it so moved that the PAB adjourn until our meeting on Monday, May the 15th, 12 noon, here in the same room, unless there's a change.
Second. Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so moved. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all.
Just let the record show that Lisa provided no snacks today.
Dawn brought her own because she knows.